How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to Rangers Rundown. I know it's been a couple weeks since I've thrown a video up, but I wanted to get a good swath of information all compacted into one video, and I thought this was a good time to kind of break up the offseason into its first big chunk. And then, of course, once Wednesday, when the free agency opens up and the Rangers start making more trades and we start seeing what this team is going to look like to start in October, I'll do another kind of big chunk of the off-season video. So that way I'm not just doing little 4-minute videos to give you little snippets. I can give you one big video to watch at a time. So I want to start with the signings. There have been 4 signings and a qualifying offer so far this offseason, starting with Gustav Rydal, who of course the Rangers picked up in free agency. They did not draft him. So he was signed to a 1-year deal, $750,000. I would be surprised if he didn't at least make it to the end of training camp, if not opening night, on the Rangers' 4th line. I don't know why they would bother signing somebody that they don't plan on playing next year, especially since it's a 1-year deal. So I would say look out for Gustav Rydal to be in the 4th line to start next season. Sammy Blais extended for 1 year, $1.525 million. He only played a handful of games to start the season, and then he was injured. So we only saw just a tiny bit of what we can get from Sammy Blais. He did have, at the time of his injury, and I should have looked this up, somebody can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I think he had 1 goal and 4 assists, or 1 goal and 5 assists, something like that. I could probably be very wrong. But again, he only played, 10 games? And then he was injured. So it'll be nice to see what a year-long Sammy Blais looks like, especially for the people that are still complaining about the Buchnevich trade and how the Blues really won that trade. I'm not going to disagree with that, but we'll see what Sammy Blais can do next season, because if he turns out to be a really strong contributor, then I think we can ease up off of that trade. It was still just one of those big explosions of a trade, but we're all adults. We can start to move on if this gets better next season. Gauthier was signed to a 1-year, $800,000 deal. Some people seem to think this would just make him easier to trade. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know too much about the politics, the behind the scenes, the off-season stuff that goes into the hockey season. Maybe it makes him easier to move. Maybe it doesn't. I know they are looking to move him before the start of the season, so I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded. If he's still here, does he make it into the lineup? Probably not. The only reason he did make it into the lineup is because Blais did get injured long term. I don't see him cracking the lineup this year, so it's better off that he is traded for his own development. Of course, Vitaly Kravtsov came out of left field. I don't think any of us were expecting that. He signed a 1-year, $875,000 deal with the Rangers, so he will be back, and he will absolutely play, because if he doesn't, he's probably going to get traded. Now, I think a lot of us pretty much thought that was just dead in the water, that Kravtsov was just soured on the Rangers. He's not coming back. He's going to either stay in Russia or force a trade, get somewhere else where he can actually get some ice time. And I felt bad for the kid. I don't know why he didn't make the roster opening night and Libor Hájek did. But, these two camps, they came together and they said, look, let's do another year. Kravtsov really wants to play. And if we can guarantee him a spot in the lineup, he's willing to come and play for the Rangers. I hope he gets into the lineup. He's a strong forward. And I hope it works out. Again, a lot of these pieces, I hope it works out one way or another. And then, of course, we get to Libor Hájek, who for some reason got a qualifying offer of $831.25. A very important 25 cents. That was make or break. But for some reason, Libor Hájek is still a New York Ranger. I really don't know why. He's not good enough to play in the NHL consistently. Just get rid of him. I don't know why this management is still holding on to Libor Hájek as if he's going to blossom into anything, because he's not. Anyway, free agents, notable free agents still on the Rangers so far. Ryan Strome, who will 95, 96, 97% not be a Ranger next season. I think he's just going to ask for too much. And the Rangers don't want to get tied down to Ryan Strome for too long because he's going to want more money. The Rangers are going to give him less money but longer term. And I think that's just not what the Rangers need right now if they're going to move for a cup. Andrew Copp, I would love to see him stay a Ranger. But I think the last I saw, he's looking for a long-term deal, somewhere in the $5 to $6 million range per year, I think is what I saw, if I'm remembering correctly. Is Ryan Copp the long-term solution for the Rangers at 2C? Maybe. We only got, 30 games of Ryan Copp, and he seemed to gel and play really well with the Rangers, so who's to say that he couldn't be the Rangers 2C for the next swath of years? I don't think the numbers fit because the Rangers will be in a cap crunch for the next couple years, and I don't think Andrew Copp fits into that. I'll be surprised if he gets signed. Let's put it that way. Frank Vetrano, I don't think is coming back. As much as I enjoyed Frank Vetrano, he's one of those players where he just has a really good shot, and that's pretty much the emphasis of his game. You don't need Frank Vetrano necessarily. There are other Frank Vetranos that you can go get for cheaper. Braun, I don't think is coming back. Tyler Mott, I think wants to come back. I was misled in my previous video. I saw something, and apparently it stuck in my head that Mott didn't want to come back. And that he was going to go test free agency, but now I'm seeing that he does want to come back and kind of work with the Rangers. Maybe. I hope he comes back. I would love him. Mott on the fourth line would be a great benefit for the Rangers for next season, so I do hope he comes back. He's one of those players that he's not going to outskill you in any area, but he's going to outwork you on the ice, and that's the kind of energy, that's the kind of enthusiasm that we need in the locker room and on the ice. And then, of course, Capo Caco still not signed his bridge deal as of today, or as of this morning. He could sign later today. I assume he's going to get kind of a 2-year, something in the $2 million range, between 2 and 3. Just a little bridge deal. Show us what you can do. We'll talk again in 2 years. Give you that long contract if you've earned it. And then Kevin Rooney, who I don't think is coming back since they signed Rydal. I think Rydal will be the fourth line center to start next season, and Rooney will be traded or just let go. And then, of course, Patrick Nemeth, who didn't play in the playoffs that much. They're going to buy him out, I'm pretty sure is the consensus of the internet, is that they're going to buy out Nemeth, so look out for that soon. And then we move on to, let's go here first, positions to fill. So with all these free agents, with all these signings, what is still left for the Rangers to do starting Wednesday when the free agency market opens up? They need a center. They need one more center, either the second line center or the third line center, depending on what they want to do with Filip Chytil. If they trust him to be this team's second line center for an entire season, then they're going to be shopping for somebody who can fit that 3C spot. Now, if the Rangers are smart, at least in my rookie estimation of this, they should try and find a player that can slot into that 2C. If Chytil struggles at some point in the season, they can just flip Chytil and whoever they get. But of course, the cap crunch being what it is, the Rangers have to play with what they have. So Chytil will be one of those two centers, but who will the other one be? The name I've heard thrown around a lot is Pierre-Luc Dubois. He is 0 for 2 with teams so far in his young career. He's looking to get out of Winnipeg. I don't see why they wouldn't sign him. For all intents and purposes, he's still a young player. He's great at his job. I think he could fill in a slot pretty well. Does he want to come to the Rangers? And is he willing to maybe take a little less money than maybe he wants? Because again, the Rangers will only have, I think, less than $10 million to play with to fill these last couple positions. So maybe they only get him for 2 years. But that seems to be the cup window for this team, the next 2 years at least. So we'll see if PLD comes to town. I've also heard Paul Stastny thrown around. He would be a fantastic 3C. I know he's in his 30s, but he's shown that he's still a quality player. He can match up with some of the younger guys on this Rangers team, make a solid third line, and then the Rangers have 3 solid lines. And then if we have Mott on the 4th line with Rydal, and then Reeves has 1 more year in his contract, maybe he plays all season. That's a solid forward group for this Rangers team. And I don't know, I would be happy if they signed Stastny. I know Malkin has been thrown around a lot. Do I want Evgeny Malkin on my team? From a winning the cup perspective, of course I do. From a just not hockey brain, let's win the cup mindset, a little less so. He's a fantastic player, and any team is better with Malkin on it. My question would be, for the price that the Rangers could get Malkin, why isn't he re-signing with Pittsburgh? Because he would sign a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal with the Rangers for whatever they can offer him, which would probably be $5-6 million. And if that's the price for Evgeny Malkin, why aren't the Penguins paying it? If Malkin's on the team, great, he's going to make the team better. Is he my favorite choice on the board? I don't think so, and that's just my gut. I couldn't explain to you why my gut is telling me that, but it is. You can yell at me in the comments if you want. Colin White was another one. Ottawa placed him on unconditional waivers. They're buying out the rest of his contract. Could he be a piece that slots in nice with the Rangers? I haven't heard too much about him, but I saw a couple inklings, felt like it was worth putting on the board. I also saw some people talking about Nazem Kadri. He is not coming to the Rangers. He's going to want too much money. I also heard Mark Scheifele, which would be fantastic. I'm a big Scheifele fan, but I think he wants to stay with Winnipeg is the sense I'm getting from the internet. He might also want too much money. Might be too rich for the Rangers' blood. So one of these guys might become a Ranger. Maybe it's somebody that's not even on the board, because at in March last season, the trade deadline, there's the words I'm looking for, Phil Kessel was one of the biggest names that we thought the Rangers were going to go for, and then all of a sudden they get, Cop, Vetrano, and the other guys. And since the Buchnevich trade, Drury has pulled himself back into I know what I'm doing land. So I trust that this offseason is going to go well. Maybe it's one of these guys, maybe it's not. The backup goalie, Kincaid, was an NHL goalie, and a pretty decent one at that. Now, he's not a starting goalie in the NHL, but we're not looking for a starting goalie in the NHL. So I don't see why they wouldn't just promote Kincaid. Maybe they want to keep Kincaid in Hartford to make sure that Hartford stays a solid team. So that way the development of their young players is still cultivated behind a strong goalie. But I don't know who else they're going to sign. I don't see any names out there of goalies that have played in the NHL recently that the Rangers could sign. Again, Kincaid I don't think would be that expensive to call up because they don't have a lot of money. And then, of course, the 6th defenseman, since they're going to buy out Nemeth, and I don't think Braun is coming back, who is going to get promoted, Jones or Lundqvist? I'm tending to lead towards Jones. So next season, have a D-core of Fox, Lindgren, Miller, Trouba, and then Jones, Schneider, I think is a solid defensive core for this Rangers team. Not to say that this team doesn't have defensive problems, and they're probably going to work on that in training camp. I think Lundqvist might be a piece in a trade this offseason, which is why I'm leaning more towards Jones making the roster. But again, you never know. But because Lundqvist has a little bit more time in the NHL, I think he's more effective as a trade chip. But maybe I'm just stupid. So those are the positions that are left to fill this offseason. Again, Wednesday starts free agency. Maybe they make a move Wednesday. Maybe they wait a little bit, wait for the market to kind of dictate costs of players and see where they can go. Or maybe they want to set the precedent for the free agency and just open and they set the market. The Rangers go out really aggressively, but who knows? Only one trade so far between the New York Rangers and the Colorado Avalanche. We say goodbye to Alexander Georgiev. He was a decent backup for us for the past couple of years, but he is off to Colorado. He just signed a 3-year deal with Colorado, so good for him. I hope he gets more playing time. It looks like he might split the season with Colorado's other goalie. So gone are the days of Georgiev only playing 16, 17 games a season. He might get up into the 30s, maybe even 40s next year with Colorado. The Rangers got three picks back for Georgiev, 2 of which they just used in this year's draft. So they got a 3rd round and a 5th round in this year's draft that just happened, and then they get a 3rd round next season. 3 picks for Georgiev. I think that's better than anybody ever thought we were going to get for him. This is another reason why my confidence in Chris Drury is increasing. Since the Buchnevich trade, I am confident he's not going to screw up this offseason. But again, who knows? So good for Georgiev, good for the Rangers getting in those draft picks. Speaking of which, the Rangers had 6 picks in this year's draft, and they are listed right here. Round 2, 63rd overall, we get Adam Sikora, who is a left wing or a center. I believe he is from Slovakia. In round 3, we had 1 pick, 97th overall, Bryce McConnell-Barker, who is a center. So you can see the Rangers, 4 of their 6 picks, 2 clear centers, and then 2 people who can play center. Round 4, 111th overall, Noah Laba, I don't know what I'm saying, but also another center. Round 5, 159th overall, Vittorio Mancini, a nice Italian name, a defenseman. Round 5, 2 picks later, 161st overall, Maxim Barbashev. I don't know if he's related to the other Barbashev that's on the Blues, but very well could be. He's a strict left wing. And then in round 6, 191st overall, Zachary Karpa, who is a center/left wing. Notably, no right wingers on the board. Guess the Rangers don't want any right wings in their future. They like centers, they like left wings, and then 1 defenseman. No goalies, but the Rangers are pretty set with goalie depth in their farm league. Development camp starts today and extends through Friday. All 6 of these players are on the development camp roster. That roster is available online if you look it up, New York Rangers development camp roster, if you want to look. I didn't recognize too many of the names. I'm not incredibly familiar with the Rangers farm system, but I checked and all 6 of these players will be there. Just a big swath of forwards, swath of defensemen, 4 goalies. And that training camp will last until Friday. We'll see if any of them make training camp in September. Brendan Othman being one of those names, where if he is not used in a trade to get a big piece this offseason, I think he is really going to try and fight for a spot in training camp in this roster. He's shown that he is an elite player at the level that he is at. Will that translate into the NHL? That's always the question, because Lafreniere completely lit it up in the lower league that he was in. He gets to the NHL, he struggles. Now, the added pressure of being first overall, I'm sure, didn't help. But you see that with some of these guys that just light it up in the lower league. They get to the NHL, and it's just a huge reality check, like, oh, I need to step my game up. So Othman is a player that I'm going to be interested to see at training camp, what happens with him. But again, too soon to tell. Again, free agency starts Wednesday. We'll see what Chris Drury and the rest of the management do to fill out this squad. And then we look forward to next season. I think it's a little too soon to start talking about questions for next season. I don't really want to get too much into that until we know what the roster is going to be. But just a sneak preview, questions that we probably have in the back of our mind that will slowly become the forefront of our mind. Is Shesterkin going to keep up his Vezina caliber goaltending? That's a question we all are pretty confident we know the answer to, but again, things happen. Are the kids going to take their next step in their development? So those being Lafreniere, Kakko, Hedl, Miller, are they all going to take that next step? Because is Kreider going to score another 52 goals next season? Probably not. So those goals have to come from somewhere else. I know at the end of last season, there was a lot of debate as to whether or not Kakko was going to be a Ranger next season. I think it was very overhyped. I think Gallant was very stupid to bench him in the last game of the season. Kakko's coming back. Is that going to affect his play, or is he going to step up and prove that he shouldn't have been benched? I've also seen, for some reason, people talking about where is Panarin going this offseason. He's not going anywhere. I know some people have talked about putting him in trade packages to get a bunch of players back. So talking with people and seeing online, I've heard Panarin to another team to get a couple of NHL players back to try and fill out this roster. Panarin, yes, had a pretty weak offseason this past year, but he has a great regular season and his skill is there. I think we just need to get him with the right players. So Panarin is going to be a Ranger. Kakko is going to be a Ranger. We don't need to worry about any of that. But that's for next video. We'll see what the Rangers do in the upcoming weeks. I'll probably put a video out at the end of this month, maybe early August, talking about the moves that this team has made, looking forward to training camp, and then, of course, opening night. Next season's schedule, the Rangers start 9 of their first 14 games at home, which is great. Build up that early lead in the standings, and then push forward through the All-Star break. 16 sets of back-to-back games for the Rangers next season. Not too crazy. The schedule is not as compressed as it was this season, so it shouldn't be as hectic. We shouldn't see as many injuries, but of course there will still be injuries. There are 3 different 4-game road trips at certain points during next season, so those might be a little iffy for the Rangers. It's 50-50 shot when they go through Western Canada, what happens there, but we'll see. There's a 5-game homestand in March, which is great, pushing forward to the end of the season, racking up those points, keeping themselves in the standings. Opening night of this season is Tuesday, October 11th, against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the team that just beat them and eliminated them in the playoffs. They will have a rematch opening night, Tuesday, October 11th, and I'm sure we're all looking forward to that. I believe it's 92 days away, if that matters to any of you. But if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more videos like it, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next rundown.